Chanel, one of the most popular designer brands in the world. And I'm not just talking about for fragrances. This is one of the most world-renowned brands and everybody knows about it. But why do people purchase this? And more importantly, why do they purchase their fragrances? Is Chanel overrated? Well, let's find out. Chanel has some of the most sold fragrances in the United States. If you look at the top 10 most sold fragrances across year after year after year, there's always going to be one Chanel fragrance that is in the top 10, and typically it is Bleu de Chanel. What is it about Bleu de Chanel that makes it so popular? When Bleu de Chanel was released, it changed the game. It revolutionized having class, masculinity, but also subtleness all in one fragrance. Whereas other fragrances would have some very bold spices, it was very common for that to be the typical scent that men had. Either something very bold with spices or very, very calm and unnoticeable. Well, Bleu de Chanel changed that by adding a fragrance that has class, that has masculinity, has spices, has a little bit of fruitiness. It was an all-in-one package, and it spawned others to want to have a fragrance like that in their lineup. Dior Sauvage came out. Versace Dylan Blue comes and follows suit, and therefore we have a bunch of fragrances that we have now deemed the blue category. Chanel and Dior pioneered blue fragrances, and that is why these fragrances are still so popular today. They are still ranking in the top 10, and they are still in just about every man's arsenal. But that's only one fragrance, and if everybody's doing it, why would you ever pick Chanel to begin with? Chanel is more expensive, you can't find them on discounters, they're so exclusive, why would you pick Chanel over something like Versace or Coach or any of the other cheaper designer brands? Well, that's where Chanel's strong suit comes in, and that is exclusivity and quality. By Chanel being extremely exclusive in its product, they make it where you have to buy them and you only get the real deal if you're buying it from a reputable source. By taking out the middleman of what they call the gray market, which is the discount websites, Chanel makes it where every time you're buying a Chanel product from a reputable store, you know for a fact you are getting the real deal. Whereas other times when you're buying these other brands, you may look on the websites and stuff like that, and you'll find a bunch of their products, and you're taking a gamble. With them, the price will look too good to be true. With Chanel, the price is a fixed price, and if it's at that price, there's like a 99% chance that you're getting the real deal. Along with that, the quality of Chanel's products is nothing short of amazing. Chanel has something to them that a lot of other designer brand fragrances refuse to add. They care. Oftentimes, Chanel has fragrances that are not the greatest smelling, they are not the most unique, but people still buy them. Why? Because these fragrances have character to them. They may not be the most unique, but there's always one something that will separate them from the rest. Take, for example, Chanel Allure Homme Sport Superleggera. This is one of the most basic styles of fragrances on the market today. But what about Chanel Allure Homme Superleggera makes it worth purchasing? Well, one, this fragrance smells amazing, and the quality is like a boost in it. For example, if you eat a piece of pizza, most of the time, pizza tastes generally the same, but it's these small differences like how crispy the crust is, or how sweet the sauce is, or how much cheese you add on the pizza, that really changes it. Same format, but small differences make a big difference. And in the end, Chanel has a product that, in my opinion, has much better quality than most of the designer brands out there. Now, I mentioned that the exclusivity can sometimes be a good thing, but the price is almost always a bad thing. There's two things that Chanel always gets wrong, and I personally feel it damages their reputation. One of them is their prices always being so high. And two, it seems like their fragrances never seem to last as long as the competition. Now, perhaps it's because the competition uses a lot more synthetic ingredients that allow them to be cheaper. However, I guarantee you Chanel could make this fragrance, sell it for 50 bucks cheaper, and still make a huge profit. They choose not to because you're paying for their brand. There's a common issue with humans, and sometimes we view price as quality. If they make their fragrances $200, more than likely you would assume that equals a quality fragrance, but not always the case. Chanel, yes, does have very high quality fragrances, But $200 worth quality? That is debatable. If there was more uniqueness and the fragrances lasted longer, perhaps they could boast a $200 price tag and it be very reasonable. However, I just don't think that with how long a lot of their fragrances last, that the price tag is always warranted. Mind you, Chanel has some of my favorite fragrances that have ever been released, such as Chanel Allure Homme Edition Blanche and Chanel Allure Homme Extreme Sport. Both of these fragrances are some of my favorite, but their price tags are still very high, making it very hard to want to purchase them consistently and use them as my everyday fragrances. So now to answer the question, the reason that you clicked on this video, is Chanel overrated? Well, I think that Chanel is, yes, a slight bit overrated, mainly because of that price gouging thing that they will do. They don't need to charge that much. I mean, when you look at successful brands like Dior, Dior charges a lot for their fragrances as well. But generally, the equivalent fragrance for Dior versus Chanel is usually about a $15 to $20 decrease on the Dior products. Why do they do that? No idea. But also you have the added benefit that almost every single thing that Dior produces lasts twice as long as what Chanel produces, at least for the men's fragrances. So that is where I start thinking, man, Chanel is a little bit overrated. I love Dior, I love Chanel, I love the smell of Chanel's fragrances actually more than I love the smell of Dior fragrances. However, that added benefit of the fragrances lasting longer for the Dior fragrances is what more consumers are going to lead to, which is why Bleu de Chanel is always number 2 to Dior Sauvage. When something lasts that long and smells that good for less price, why would you pick the other option? So that is the video. If you guys enjoyed this, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and let me know if you would like to see other videos in this style. My name is Sprits'N, and I will see you guys in the next one.